So, welcome all. In this video I will explain the if-else statement. And imagine that you have multiple sets of statements and you only want one of these sets being executed under certain conditions. Then you can use such a statement. So let's first have a look at the syntax of an if-else statement. So you start by typing if, then rounded brackets, and then curly brackets. And between those rounded brackets, you type a condition. And the condition always results in either true or false. Under the if statement, you type an else if statement. So you start by typing else, space, if, then rounded brackets. And also between those rounded brackets, you also type a condition. And then it follows with two curly brackets. And finally, you type an else block by typing else and then two curly brackets. So what happens here is that it first checks this condition. And if this condition is true, then these statements here are being executed. And then the program continues below the whole block. So at this point here. If this condition is false, then it jumps to the else if block and then it starts checking this condition here. And if this condition is true, then these statements are being executed. And then it jumps under the whole block and continues from here on. If this condition is false as well, then the statements in the else block are being executed. Yeah, so know that at least one of these blocks are being executed based on the first condition that becomes true. So if this condition is true, then these statements here are being executed. If this condition is false, but this condition is true, then these statements are being executed. And if both conditions are false, then the statements in the else block are being executed. Note that we also can make more else if blocks by typing else if rounded brackets, here a condition, and then following with curly brackets. Yes, so the same syntax as we had before. So we can define multiple else if blocks. So let's have an example. So let's make an integer I and let the user prompt a number on the console. And then we can check if I is greater than 5. And if I is greater than 5, we will print I is greater than 5. Then we can check if I is between 2 and 5. And therefore we use this condition. Yeah, so with this condition we check if I is between 2 and 5. And otherwise we will print I is less than 2. Yeah, so if I is greater than 5, we will print the text I is greater than 5. If I is between 2 and 5, we will print the text I is between 2 and 5. And otherwise we will print I is less than 2. And at the end of the program, we will print end program. So let's run this program. And type the number 7. Now you see it prints I is greater than 5 and end program. So what happens here is that on line 14 we check the condition here. So 7 is larger than 5. So therefore it will execute the statements between those curly brackets here, which is in this case a single statement which prints I is greater than 5, which we see here on the console. And then it jumps below the if-else block and continues further from there on. So on line 24 is the next statement which prints end program on the console, which we see here. So let's run this program again. So now we can enter the number 4, for example, And now you see it prints I is between 2 and 5. So it first starts checking the condition on line 14. 4 is not greater than 5, so this condition is false. And therefore it jumps to the next block, which is on line 17. So now it checks if I is greater or equal to 2 and whether it is smaller or equal to 5. This is true because 4 is between 2 and 5, and therefore it executes the statements between those curly brackets here. So in this case, a single statement which prints I is between 2 and 5 on the console, which we see here. So let's run this program one more time. So let's enter the number 1. And now you see it prints I is less than 2. So it again starts checking the condition on line 14. So 1 is not greater than 5. So therefore it jumps to the next block. 1 is also not larger than 2. So this condition becomes false. And therefore it will jump to the else block. And the else block is then executed, meaning the statements between those curly brackets are being executed, which is a single statement that prints I is less than 2 on the console, which we see here. So that's it for this video. So in this video we have seen the if, else statement.